Welcome to the New York Academy of Medicine's 173rd Annual Meeting of the Fellows. This event is an annual highlight for us as we induct our newest class of fellows and members and reflect on our progress in advancing health equity. It is also our opportunity to celebrate leaders in health. Although we aren't able to celebrate with you at our historic building, this year's virtual event will be no less special. As we've done on only a handful of occasions since 1847, this year we're forgoing our usual anniversary discourse to present a more abbreviated program. Today we're focused on what brought us through the pandemic, what has given us hope when we've struggled to find meaning in so much loss, and what continues to keep us positive and keep us safe. Today, we're focusing on leadership, honoring our newest fellows and members, leaders in health, and especially those on the front lines. In this extraordinary year, we're presenting a single award, the Stephen Smith Medal for Distinguished Contributions in Public Health. Shortly, it will be presented to our very own Governor of New York, the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo, for his leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. We look forward to honoring him. I would also like to take a moment to briefly share how NYAM continues its leadership in advancing our mission of health equity and our vision of a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life. This is a historic moment for the nation and for NYAM. A time when the extent of disparities in health have been exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's growing unrest with the status quo. A time when the pandemic continues to grip the nation and we continue to witness its relentless toll on the health and economic well-being of our nation, especially in communities of color. Like so many other healthcare professionals, I volunteered to work on the front lines at Bellevue Hospital during the height of the pandemic in New York City. During the 5 weeks of my deployment, I witnessed firsthand the devastation of COVID-19 and the inequities in health and healthcare. This experience has further fueled the passion that I and so many others in our NYAM community have to tackle these inequities. Now is the time to redouble our efforts. At NYAM, we have refocused our work to contribute to the COVID response for our community. We're partnering with healthcare institutions, policymakers, and community leaders on innovative research and programs that address the health inequities exacerbated by the pandemic. We plan to continue our work in innovative ways that will tackle issues of health justice. We've built an action agenda that will help address systemic racism by building access and sharing power with those in communities whose voices deserve to be heard. We're living through a moment that demands that change must happen. To all of you joining today, thank you for being part of our network of champions. Together, we have the capacity to lead and the potential to transform. And now we turn to our induction ceremony, where we welcome the newest members of our NYAM community. I would like to extend special thanks to the members of our Committee on Admissions and Membership, led by Dr. Barbara Green, for their hard work in reviewing all the applications and selecting this year's distinguished inductees. For this year's virtual ceremony, we're welcoming the two senior leaders in New York Health to help induct our newest fellows and members. We're honored to be joined by New York City Health Commissioner Dr. Dave Choksi and New York State Health Commissioner Dr. Howard Zucker, who will now introduce our fellows and members.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Dave Choksi. I have the privilege of serving as the Health Commissioner for the City of New York. And it's really an honor for me to get to be a part of this celebration of all of you. I have that honor of also being a fellow of the New York Academy of Medicine. And one of the reasons that I remember I wanted to become a fellow is because of the very meaningful history of the Academy. And I'm particularly thinking about that as I've taken on this role of serving as Commissioner of Health. Because the Academy, as you may know, was founded in a period of turmoil for health. And similar to now, a time when public health was seen as fundamental to life itself, to the way that we thought of ourselves as New Yorkers. In the middle of the 19th century, there were so many diseases, some of them epidemics, that New Yorkers were suffering from. And it was a period where the Academy really led so much of the work that needed to happen over the subsequent years to change living conditions in New York City, to improve sanitation, and to make it so that people understood how fundamental public health was to our lives and our quality of life. The New York Academy of Medicine was involved in the founding of the health department, which I now get to lead, as well as the Board of Health and the Metropolitan Health Laws, which really marked a landmark shift in public health in New York City, and was the exemplar for changes in public health across the country. So I hope you derive some inspiration from that distinguished history of the Academy. And certainly we find ourselves in such a historic moment as well. And so it's something that's been on my mind too. But without further ado, this is about all of you and the wonderful contributions that you all have made to health and medicine. And so I'm so glad to be able to help induct the 36 new fellows into the New York Academy of Medicine. So I'll just be doing a simple roll call. And thanks again for letting me be a part of this with you. First is Dr. Marissa Abram from the Adelphi College of Nursing and Public Health. Dr. Bradley Auzarat. Dr. Billy Caceres from the Columbia University School of Nursing. Dr. Kathleen Capitulo from the JJP VA Medical Center. Dr. Leon Chen from the NYU Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Dr. Elizabeth Corwin from the Columbia University School of Nursing. Dr. Stephen Cox from the Adelphi University College of Education and Health Sciences. Dr. Marie Cox from the Adelphi University College of Nursing and Public Health. Dr. Eric Eiding from the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Dr. Teresa Evering from Weill Cornell Medicine. Dr. Linda Flynn from the Rutgers School of Nursing, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. Dr. Lorraine Frazier from the Columbia University School of Nursing. Dr. Eric Gale from the Institute of Family Health. Dr. Carolyn Gelman, Silberman School of Social Work at Hunter College. Dr. Selena Gillis from the NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing. Dr. Angela Jourdain from the St. Barnabas Health System. Dr. Colleen Kumar from the Hackensack Meridian Health, JFK Muhlenberg, Harold B. and Dorothy A. Snyder School of Nursing and Medical Imaging. Dr. Zur Anthony Enriquez Lim from Mount Sinai Beth Israel. Dr. Ellen McCabe from Hunter College, Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing. Dr. Dizapello Mpotokwane McFarland from the Adelphi University College of Nursing and Public Health. Dr. Claudia Mitziliotis from the CUNY College of Staten Island, College of Nursing and Public Health. Dr. Connie Newman from the NYU School of Medicine. Dr. Deirdre O'Flaherty from the Lenox Hill Hospital, Northwell Health. Dr. Niadi Parekh from NYU Langone School of Medicine. Dr. Lori Persico, Hofstra Northwell Graduate School of Nursing and Physician Assistants. Dr. Kenneth Rondello, Adelphi University College of Nursing and Public Health. Dr. Susan Rux, Chamberlain College of Nursing. Dr. James Salway, New York City Health and Hospitals. Dr. Elizabeth Ann Joan Sulzer, Pace University College of Health Professions. Dr. Varsha Singh, St. Joseph's University Medical Center. Dr. Larry Slater, NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing. Dr. Edward Suh, Columbia University. Dr. Carolyn Sun, Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing, Hunter College. Dr. Kim Thacker, Eurogen Pharma. Dr. Sally Wong, American Heart Association National Center. And Dr. Annette Wysocki, Stony Brook University School of Nursing. Congratulations again to each of you for being inducted into the New York Academy of Medicine. Thank you again for all of your many contributions. It couldn't be coming at a more important time.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Howard Zucker, and I am the Commissioner of Health for New York State. The New York Academy of Medicine has been a phenomenal partner to the Department of Health on many projects, but especially healthy aging. The department and the New York Academy of Medicine have worked closely together on age-friendly health improvement programs that address the social determinants of health, an essential strategy for building healthier communities. In 2017, this partnership resulted in the AARP and the World Health Organization certifying New York as the nation's first age-friendly state. A year later, NYAM helped the state develop and launch the Health Across All Policies initiative, which aligns the work of all state agencies at systems level to ensure that all older New Yorkers can access services, participate in civic activities, and travel safely and efficiently in their communities. Last year, the department was proud to have our joint Health Across All Policies Age-Friendly New York State initiative recognized by the National Network of Public Health Institute's Public Health Innovation Award. NYAM continues to provide technical assistance to at least 16 counties across the state as they incorporate age-friendly principles into their policies and programs. And during this pandemic, which has brought chronic anxiety and uncertainty to the lives of so many older New Yorkers and vulnerable populations, NYAM has maintained its important age-friendly work to address isolation among older adults. New York State is immensely fortunate to have such an innovative, resourceful, and above all, caring and compassionate ally, especially now during our historic fight against COVID-19. This year, we are inducting 6 members, 2 associate members, and 22 student members. The members: Erinam Cujo, Health Quest Medical Practice; Oswaldo Luciano, Mount Sinai Hospital; Dr. Aldine Morris, Mount Sinai Morningside; Dr. Jean Marie Osborne, Malloy College Barbara H. Hagan School of Nursing; Nancy Rockline, Mount Sinai Health System, Blavatnik Family Chelsea Medical Center; Sabina Zach, Northwell Health. The associate members: Brooke Heffley, University of Pennsylvania Perelman Center for Advanced Medicine; Kimon Statakos, Northwell Health. Student members: Ahmed Abdel Fattah, St. John's University College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences; Te'ewo Adashoba, University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences; James Alresi, State University of New York at Stony Brook School of Medicine; Omayane Clement, Donald and Barbara Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra, Northwell; Jonathan Davido, American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine; Ronald Espinosa, Walden University School of Nursing; Minerva Francis Nelson, Teachers College, Columbia University; Alexandra Greenberg, SUNY Downstate School of Medicine; Natalie Helmers, NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing; Teresa Urancic, NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing; Adobe Ekpezi, SUNY Upstate Medical University; Alexandria Iris, Columbia University Vagelos College of Physicians and Surgeons; Danielle Leniza, University of Houston; Laura Lynch, Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health; Michael Manasia, Duke University School of Nursing; Ulaya Melnick, NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing; Amanda Mangado, Albert Einstein School of Medicine; Lori Mervin, NYU Robert F. Wagner Graduate School of Public Service; Jayanta Mandal, University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, UT Health; Marcus Mosley, CUNY School of Medicine, the City College of New York; Navin Sinichar, Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health; Charles Sankey, Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Congratulations again to the new members, the associate members, and the student members of the New York Academy of Medicine.
Congratulations to the newest members of our NYAM community. Thank you for your distinguished work as clinicians, scholars, educators, and advocates, and for your shared commitment to NYAM's vision. We honor and celebrate your leadership. And thank you, Dr. Zucker and Dr. Choksi, for your leadership in guiding us during these very difficult times. Each year, we pay tribute to our 30-year fellows for their significant contributions to public health. This year, 3 of our fellows who mark their 30 years of NYAM membership have provided personal statements. We hope you find inspiration from their ideas on important work, as well as their wisdom for the leaders of the future.
Accord regular attention to 2 areas that are prioritized by relatively small numbers of leaders of medicine today. The first issue is the health of populations, its determinants, and findings from research on the effectiveness of interventions to improve and maintain it. The second is the politics of the health sector. Who does what to, for, and with whom to achieve what purposes, and how effectively do they do it?
First, I would like to recognize Dr. Andrew Slaby, my dear friend who nominated me as a candidate for fellowship in the Academy in 1989. Sadly, Drew passed away this summer from COVID-19. As a 30-year fellow of the New York Academy of Medicine, the following is my advice for the leaders of today and tomorrow in the Academy. The fellow leaders of the Academy are in a unique position to take on the twin major challenges for our society of racism and power and privilege. For example, the Academy could promote a harm reduction-oriented strategy partnership with an academic institution and the New York City Police Department for a scientific investigation into de-escalation and New York City policing. Psychiatry and nursing in inpatient psychiatric units have long been experts in de-escalation and the use of seclusion and restraints while minimizing harm to staff and patients when restraint is necessary. The author of the new book, The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander, an expert on racism in the criminal justice system, may be an available local resource as she is now based at the Union Theological Seminary. The challenge of understanding power and privilege is a complex one, and the fields of mental health and social sciences can be helpful in understanding and addressing the losses being experienced by white men as they witness the advances of women and people of color. Perhaps we can contribute to a new male paradigm that builds on men's strengths, resulting in a more satisfying life of connection and cooperation for everyone. Cooperation between healthcare providers and police on de-escalation could be a role model for the new paradigm. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Larry Budnick, a professor of medicine at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School and director of its occupational medicine service. As a 30-year fellow of the Academy, I would advise future leaders to try to stay compassionate and focused on what is important, the care of your patients and your community. Be respectful of others, including your patients, your staff and colleagues, your teachers and your students, and perhaps most important, your family. Keep current with new information. Almost everything I learned in medical school and in my residencies is past history. I've had to continually relearn my field. And finally, don't take yourself too seriously. Good luck.
Now I'm pleased to introduce two very special guests. Both are inspirational leaders, and we're honored to have them here this evening. Michael Dowling, the President and CEO of Northwell Health, will present the Stephen Smith Medal for Distinguished Contributions in Public Health to the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York. This award, established in 2005, recognizes extraordinary achievements in public health and was named for Stephen Smith, a NYAM Fellow and a pioneer in the field. Thank you, Mr. Dowling, for joining us to introduce our extraordinary honoree.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you on this very unique occasion. As you all know very well, we have been going through a pretty extraordinary experience. The largest public health crisis in a generation. All of us have been affected by it. Every single one of us has changed our perspective about a lot of things. But as you know also, during a crisis like this, leadership really, really matters. Leadership that tells the truth. Leadership that uses facts and science to guide decisions. Leadership that builds trust. Leadership that unifies, that brings people together, that focuses people on the central mission of how we deal with issues such as this. Leadership that has this sense of optimism, that talks about what's possible for the future, despite the fact that we're going through difficult times right now. And here in New York, as I know you will all agree with me, we have been very, very fortunate indeed, because we have Governor Andrew Cuomo, a model of such leadership. And I have been very, very fortunate to have known Andrew for many, many years. I've known him for over 35 years. I've known him since I joined the administration of his father back in the early 1980s. And I've been privileged to know all of the Cuomo family. What a spectacular family that is. And I've worked with Andrew over all these years on a variety of topics, from the homeless issues way, way back to dealing with Medicaid, Medicaid reform, and so many others. It's indeed been a privilege. Andrew, he listens, he cares, he acts, he understands the concerns of healthcare providers. He appreciates the role and the contributions of frontline staff who are out each and every day doing spectacular work. He understands very, very clearly the role of public health, the fundamental role that public health plays in our overall healthcare infrastructure. He also understands the inequities in our healthcare organization and in our delivery systems, and very, very well aware of the disproportionate effect that COVID has had on communities of color. And as a student of history, he understands the historic role that the Academy has been playing in the area of health and public health since its founding in the 1840s. So, Andrew, for me, is this very special friend, a unique individual, an individual that I like being with and working with. Now, of course, he's younger than me, much younger. He's better looking than me. He dresses better than I. And he's more articulate. It's just kind of surprising, since I was the one that kissed the Blarney Stone. He also, by the way, can carry out a very, very unique Irish accent, which sometimes when he talk to me using that Irish accent, I have a hard time figuring out what part of Ireland is he really from. But Andrew is not only a friend of mine, and this is what's important to keep in mind. I consider him a real friend, but he's not only a friend of mine, he's a friend to all New Yorkers. I congratulate the Academy. I congratulate you for everything you're doing and have done, and I congratulate you for bestowing upon Andrew the Stephen Smith Award. You could not have given an award to a more deserving individual, especially at this time. I know that you would agree with me that we all aspire to the type of leadership that Andrew personifies. Leadership based on integrity, civility, sense of decency, optimism, caring, and a real unanimous concern for the well-being and lives of everybody. So I congratulate Andrew, and I thank the Academy. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you all so much.
Hello, I'm Andrew Cuomo, and it's my pleasure to join you today. Let me begin by thanking your chairperson, Dr. Wayne Riley, and your president, Dr. Judith Salerno, for their leadership, innovation, and expertise. Dr. Riley guided SUNY Downstate, and Dr. Salerno returned to service at Bellevue's ICU, and they were there in the front lines at the time of this COVID crisis. I also want to thank Michael Dowling, who was a godsend to me in this state during COVID, and Dr. Howard Zucker, my health commissioner, who was extraordinary in fighting the worst healthcare crisis in a generation. I thank all of you today for the Stephen Smith Award. There is no doubt that this is a moment that we should seize upon to reflect on Dr. Smith's vision. We paid a very high price for the COVID-19 crisis, and we're still paying that price. Let's make sure that we honestly acknowledge and learn the relevant lessons from this situation. This nation should have been better prepared. Over 20 years ago, we had SARS, and then we had dengue and Zika and Ebola and MERS. SARS, MERS, and COVID, all were coronaviruses, all zoonotic viruses, all from wet markets in China, all defied early global detection and spread. This nation has not invested adequately in a state-of-the-art public health system. That's the frank and candid truth. Our emergency management public health response is simply not what it needs to be. How could we run out of masks and gowns, reagents, and nasal swabs in the middle of this crisis? How could the United States of America not have the capacity to manufacture the necessary materials? It was like sending soldiers to war without bullets. Our hospital system is designed to satisfy market forces, but not the contingency of dealing with a surge capacity that is necessary in a public health emergency. Government health officials must never be in a position where they can be subjected to political pressure. The American people must be able to trust the integrity of the medical information they are receiving without question. At the same time, during these darkest days of COVID, we also saw the light. We saw 30,000 retired doctors and nurses return to service to battle the pandemic. We saw 10,000 healthcare professionals from around the country volunteer to come to New York at the height of the pandemic. We saw healthcare professionals become battlefield heroes in saving lives. And we saw the people of New York State rise to the occasion. We saw that when things are at their worst, people can be at their best. We saw a sense of community, of interconnection and interrelation that vindicated our better angels. I hope and pray a COVID-19 type crisis never happens again, but I believe it will. And your challenge, our society's challenge is to be better prepared for that day before it comes. That's my goal. I know that's your goal. And I know that together we will get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your outstanding leadership and your tireless commitment to keeping New Yorkers safe and healthy. Not only do you embody the spirit of New York tough, but also New York good, both traits of leadership the city, state, and country need during these exceedingly difficult times. Thank you again, and congratulations. A few days ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with another outstanding leader in health, and I'm pleased to share our conversation with you today. I'm delighted to be here today with Dr. Wayne Riley, president of SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University. On October 20th of this year, just a few short weeks ago, Dr. Riley was unanimously appointed chair of the NYAM Board of Trustees. I could not be more proud that during my tenure as president of NYAM, we selected the first Black chair in the 173-year history of our organization. Dr. Riley boldly and brilliantly led SUNY Downstate Medical Center, a COVID-designated hospital, through the worst of the pandemic. He's been a member of the NYAM Board of Trustees since he arrived in New York in 2017 and has helped guide us through the past 3 years. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Dr. Riley.
Thank you, Dr. Salerno. Delighted to be with you.
Well, let's start off by talking about your leadership of the hospital when it was designated a COVID-19 facility by Dr. Cuomo in March of this year. You faced unique challenges in delivering patient care at the height of the pandemic in New York. What were some of the lessons that we can learn from your experience?
Well, thank you, Dr. Salerno, for mentioning that Governor Cuomo designated us very early in the pandemic, within the pandemic here in New York City and Brooklyn, to serve as a COVID-only hospital. We took that as a mark of distinction, that the governor felt enough confidence in us at SUNY Downstate as the only state-operated hospital in all of New York City, and in particular in Brooklyn, where we were hard hit. So our faculty, our deans, our clinical leadership, our nursing leadership, our respiratory therapy leadership and staff really rolled up their sleeves and really worked under some very trying circumstances that have been well documented. Our efforts were chronicled in a primetime CNN special that we're very proud of, that really told the on-the-ground experience of many of our caregivers and patients. And that was followed by a front page Sunday story in the New York Times that really, again, highlighted the terrific work that we were able to do collectively to take care of very sick COVID patients at the outbreak of the epidemic. So what we learned is that we can rise to the occasion, that we had the resiliency that we expect of all healthcare providers, whether they be physicians, nurses, or respiratory therapists, to take care of patients in very trying circumstances. So, if I said the learning is that we were capable, we responded, and then we executed in order to save and protect lives as best as we could, given the really severe impact that COVID had in Brooklyn.
Indeed, I was very moved by the stories I heard coming out of Brooklyn. And as you know, I volunteered at Bellevue Hospital in April and May, again during the height of the pandemic. And I saw firsthand the devastating effects of the virus on families, as well as the deep disparities that it uncovered or exposed the inequities that we knew were there. The economic toll, the personal toll, the lives the pandemic took, and followed by the subsequent racial reckoning in our country has really opened up a conversation about systemic inequities. Share with us some of your thoughts about how we move forward as a city, state, and a country to ensure that health justice is a social good.
Well, Judy, that's a great question. I take that my role now as chairman of the board of trustees of the New York Academy of Medicine to help catalyze not just conversations, but concrete solutions that could be focused on systemic racism in healthcare and medicine. As much as we enjoy and have acknowledged the wonderful progress of medical science over the last 150 years in particular in the United States, we do have areas where we've not done well, where African Americans from the beginning of recorded data have never had the same level of health statistics than their fellow citizens who were not Black. That's been well documented back in the 80s in the landmark report on Black and minority health under Secretary Heckler, Marge Heckler at the time. The Heckler-Malone report, as it's known, was the first time we knew about significant healthcare disparities in our country. Now, fast forward to 2020, and here we are. Those healthcare disparities were the perfect setup for the severe impact of COVID on Black and brown communities, in particular in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens, as has been well documented. My strategy, hopefully, is that NYAM can do what it's always done, which is to embrace science, to embrace medicine, and now to do so by embracing and working on health equity issues that we know are within a few miles of where we are. So again, in being part of the policy discussion in New York City, New York State about what can be done, how resources can be rearranged, even in the era of tight resources can be rearranged to do targeted addressing of healthcare issues. So I think this is critically important. I applaud the fellows and members in the Board of Trustees for taking on the challenge of health equity and understanding that by taking on health equity, we serve our unique and historic purpose of furthering medicine and science vis-a-vis the Academy.
Well, I'm hoping that NYAM is rising to the challenge. We recently released our action agenda for health equity, which attempts to address some of these access and power issues that as we work toward everybody having the opportunity to live a healthy life. And thank you for recognizing NYAM's leadership role. How can we extend that role beyond the groups we work with and our partners here in New York City to have a broader role and be a national voice for health equity?
Well, first of all, Judy, I have to salute you. As our president and CEO of New York Academy of Medicine, you have embraced the whole equity initiative with gusto. So I salute you and thank you for your leadership to have that discussion with our board and with our fellows and members. You're right, we have to broaden our reach. We have to, as you and I have discussed, from a policy point of view, we should be more muscular in making sure that we are embracing medicine and science at a time in this country, unfortunately, where medicine and science and scientific and medical expertise are being denigrated almost on a daily basis to the detriment of the health and safety and well-being of New Yorkers, all New Yorkers, but in particular, those communities who have been more adversely impacted. So again, we have to step out there, comfort zone a little bit, and really delve into how we can be part of the solution, how we can put together coalitions of the willing, if you will, to work with. We can't do it alone, but we can in partnership with key individuals, key groups, both at the federal, state, and local level, and other nonprofit organizations, other foundations. We think as NYAM, as you know, we think we can play a major role. And that's where the board and I and you and the staff are going to really roll up our sleeves and put in a little bit of sweat equity to try to meet that high bar and high challenge. So this is NYAM's moment to shine. And again, my role as the chair is to do everything we can to position us to be that organization that has instant credibility, or as our young people say, the street cred, to wade into these difficult issues of medicine and public health and health equity.
Great, and we're so delighted to have your leadership and partnership in this really critical effort. Just one final question. During the pandemic, I was really struck by the toll it took on frontline workers. And I know you had many frontline workers who became ill, had all kinds of issues from lack of PPE to worrying about infecting their families to getting sick themselves. I'm worried about the mental health, the long-term effects on particularly our young house staff and young health professionals who are on the front lines. What can we do to support them? Because they're our future. They're the next generation of healthcare leaders. And what can we do now to make sure that they weather this and grow from it in meaningful ways that will support their leadership in health?
Well, Judy, I can tell you, during the peak of the pandemic in Brooklyn, I had many sleepless nights worried about our physicians, our nurses, our caregivers. I could see in their faces, the pain and the anguish and the impotence they felt to help patients who were very, very sick and deteriorated very quickly, almost before their eyes, something they had not experienced in their medical, nursing, or professional careers. So, PTSD and sort of the intense feelings and emotions that folks have are real among caregivers during this COVID era. We should never minimize that. We should acknowledge it. We should get them to talk about it. We should put together initiatives and wellness and well-being programs and opportunities for them to talk about their experience, to emote, to share their fears and their concerns. Because as you know, as a physician, part of getting our patients better, the entire patient, is that you have to look at the mental health stresses and behavioral issues that may impact their physical health. So again, this is something that we feel strongly about, that we should be mindful of.
Thank you. Want to all be aligned with helping our healers heal, as they say. So, Wayne, thank you so much for sharing some time in this conversation with me and our fellows and our members. And we look forward to a very productive and important year ahead for NYAM with your leadership. Thank you.
Great. Well, I'm honored and look forward to working with you and all the staff and our fellows and members and in other kindred spirits in our goal to make New York City and the wonderful people who live in New York City and our region healthier, happier.
Thank you once again, Dr. Riley, for your leadership. We're thrilled to have you as our board chair, leader, and partner. And now, let us take a moment to remember the people across the nation that we lost to COVID-19 and leaders in our NYAM family that we've lost over the past year. Please join me in a moment of silence. Before we close today's program, I would like to acknowledge and thank all the frontline and essential workers who have given so much to help keep New York running and keep New Yorkers healthy over these past months. Your tireless work, dedication, and sacrifice are appreciated by all of us, and we will forever be indebted to you. Thank you is not enough. As the final element of our program, I'm pleased to introduce a tribute to frontline workers by NYAM Program Officer and spoken word artist, Shania Taylor.
We would never have imagined that we would be in this place. A world forced virtual, restrictions on events face-to-face, and to date, we are mourning so many lives. The burden of our current times has felt too hard to bear. There have been moments when life couldn't be articulated, so silence has filled the air, and during what seems like endless moments of despair, you all have been there, your feet hustling down the streets day and night to keep cities afloat. You have provided peace of mind for so many that you will never know, and that is the true definition of a hero. Working indefatigably for those you may never see, guided by your concern for humanity, you have served relentlessly, and we are grateful for the challenges you have traversed to keep us safe. We are in debt to you for your perseverance and ability to keep up the pace of adversity that undoubtedly hit you on every side. Through your courage, we find hope that not only will we survive, but that we will recover. We have seen you display love to those for whom you have no biological ties. You have been quarantined from your families because you were helping to keep people alive, and you might serve in the medical profession or contribute to sanitation collection. Maybe your specialty is transporting people around the city or packing grocery, whether paid or volunteer vocation. You have helped to heal multiple lives, and not only is this city grateful, but I submit to you this nation. So we give you your flowers today. You are more than deserving. Giants on the front line, those who never stop working, we salute you, not only from our balconies and terraces. Many of us pray for your well-being silently. We teach our children your bravery, and that will go down in history because your display of service has created a legacy for us to embrace a new form of empathy that is coupled with the responsibility to pair our discourse with action, to dig deeply underneath our initial concern and examine our perceptions and reactions, so we do not take your legendary service for granted. So yes, we give you your flowers today and always. We remember your faces, even though often hidden behind a mask. We remember your eyes creased and foreheads wrinkled with concentration on any given task. We feel the weight of your fatigue as populations have stood on your shoulders. We sense the pain in your back as you have served as the bridge to bring us up and over the curve. So we provide you with applause that you may never hear. And we hope that you can feel the vibrations of our gratitude reverberating far and near. So thank you to the workers on the front line. May you be comforted knowing that you are always on our minds. We want you to know that your deeds haven't gone unnoticed. We thank you for your tenacious focus. So at this moment, we take time to express our deepest gratitude for what you're doing now, and for what you did back then, and for what you continue to do over and over again. We see you, we cheer for you, and we say thank you.
Thank you, Shania, for your incredible performance. Congratulations again to our new fellows and members. And thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your leadership. Thank you all for joining us tonight as NYAM's Community of Champions for Health Equity. Have a good evening.